You know that feeling, right? Your team is just busy all the time. Everyone's putting in the hours, the keyboards are clicking. But if someone asks, hey, when will that big feature be done? You kind of just have to shrug. It's that feeling of chaos. But what if you could move from that chaos to, well, real clarity? That's exactly what we're going to break down today. Yeah, I think we're going fast. This is basically the theme song for a team running on vibes. It's pure gut feeling. And look, gut feelings have their place, but you can't build a predictable project on them. The real magic happens when you stop feeling fast and start knowing you are. And the way you get there? Data. That's our guide for this whole journey. Okay, so this really lays out the two worlds we're talking about. On one side, you've got the feelings column. This is the land of wild guesses, where blockers just pop up out of nowhere and you're constantly asking yourself, are we even improving? It's stressful, right? Then you look at the evidence side. This is where you want to be. Decisions are driven by data. Your team has a stable velocity, a predictable pace, and you can actually measure your progress. To make this real, we're going to follow a story, the story of a team called DataFlow Analytics, and see exactly how they jumped from that left column over to the right.
All right, let's dive into section 1. So, meet the DataFlow team. At the beginning of our story, they are living in pure chaos. I'm talking classic startup mess. Deadlines were more like suggestions, stakeholders were getting seriously frustrated, and you can just imagine what that does to team morale. It was not good. They were deep in the pain of unpredictability.
And what was at the heart of all this chaos? The way they estimated work. They were doing it the old school way, guessing in hours. You know how this goes, right? The junior dev says, 40 hours. The senior dev says, 10 hours. So they meet in the middle and call it a day. The problem is, that's just a terrible way to do it. It doesn't account for complexity, for all the hidden work like testing or code reviews. It just ignores all the uncertainty that's baked into building software. And yikes. Here's the result of that guesswork. Just look at this table from their first sprint. A 30% success rate. That's it. Big features were only 60% done. Others weren't even started. And let me be clear, this team was smart, they were working hard, but their system was fundamentally broken. Can you imagine how demoralizing that must have felt? It was obvious they needed a total overhaul, a new way to talk about work that everyone on the team could actually agree on. So that brings us to our second section. How did they start to climb out of this hole? They needed a new language, a new way of thinking. And the first tool they grabbed was something called story points. And this is so important. It's not just a new way to count. It was a complete shift in their mindset about what work even is. So what the heck are story points? The key word here is relative. We're not talking about hours anymore. We're not trying to predict the future with a crystal ball. A story point is just a number that represents a mix of three things: how much effort is involved, how complex the work is, and how much uncertainty or risk there is. And this is crucial. It's all relative to other work the team has done. It's a team-wide agreement, not one person's guess. This comparison here just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. Hours are absolute. They depend entirely on who's doing the work. My 8 hours are not your 8 hours. It's totally inconsistent. But story points, they're relative. They're a team consensus. And they capture the whole shebang. The effort, the complexity, the risk. It totally changes the conversation from, hey, how long is this going to take you? To, okay, team, how big is this thing for us? See the difference? It's huge. And you might think this sounds complicated, but getting started is actually pretty simple. Here's what DataFlow did. Step 1. They found one simple, small task that everyone understood really well. In this case, the data export feature. They all agreed, okay, let's just call this a 5-pointer. That's it. That's their baseline. From then on, every other task was compared to that 5. So when the user dashboard came up, they said, this feels way more complex, maybe 3 times bigger. Boom, it's a 13. They use that Fibonacci sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, because it forces you to think in buckets of size instead of getting hung up on tiny differences. Okay, so we're moving on to section 3. They've got a way to size up individual pieces of work. That's a huge step. But how does that help you plan a whole project? How do you get from sizing one task to predicting the future? Well, that's where the next metric comes in, velocity. This is the key that turns those individual estimates into real, honest-to-goodness predictability. So what is velocity? It's actually super simple. It's just the average number of story points the team gets completely done in one sprint. That's it. Now, it's really important to know what it's not. It's not a target. It's not a weapon for managers to say, go faster. It's just a historical fact. Think of it like a car's average miles per gallon. It's not a goal, it's just what the car does based on past performance. It's an honest look at your team's capacity. And check this out. After just a few sprints of using this new system, look what happened to DataFlow's output. Sprint 3, they hit 35 points. Sprint 4, 38. Sprint 5, 36. Yeah, there are little wobbles, that's totally normal, but what you're seeing here is a pattern emerging from the chaos. They're finding a rhythm. For the first time, their output is becoming stable and predictable. That stability is pure gold. It builds so much confidence. So after running like this for a bit, they could confidently say our stable velocity is about 35 points per sprint. That one number, that's the foundation for everything. It's no longer a guess, it's a fact based on their actual performance. This is what the DataFlow team can count on delivering, sprint in and sprint out. And now, for the magic trick. This is where it all pays off. A stakeholder comes by and asks the big question. When is that huge advanced analytics feature going to be ready? In the old days, this would cause panic and wild guesses. But now they just do some simple math. They've estimated the whole epic at 105 points. They know their velocity is 35 points per sprint. So 105 divided by 35 is 3. 3 sprints. Just like that. They have a real data-driven answer. This is how you build trust. This is an absolute game changer. Okay, so we've reached a new level. The team is predictable. That's awesome. But are we done? Nope. Because being predictably slow or predictably buggy, well, that's not the goal, is it? So for section 4, we need to talk about quality and speed. How do you make sure the work is good, and how do you optimize the flow to get it done efficiently? The first tool for this is called the definition of done, or DOD. It sounds fancy, but it's just a checklist. A simple, shared, absolutely non-negotiable checklist that every single piece of work has to meet before anyone can say the word done. This kills that classic problem, right? Where a developer says, yep, I'm done, but it hasn't been tested or peer-reviewed or anything. The DoD is basically the team's shared contract for what quality looks like. Now, here's a super common point of confusion, so let's clear it up. The definition of done is not the same as acceptance criteria. Think of it this way. Acceptance criteria are specific to one story, like the user must be able to log in with their email. It defines what the feature should do. The DoD, on the other hand, applies to all stories. It's a global quality rule, like all new code must have tests. You absolutely need both. One helps you build the right thing, the other helps you build the thing right. Okay, let's talk about getting faster. To do that, we have to understand flow. And this timeline breaks down 2 super important metrics. First, you've got lead time. That's the total time from the moment an idea is requested to the moment it's delivered. This is what your customer or user actually experiences. Then you have cycle time. That's the hands-on time, when the team is actually working on it. See that big gap between when work could have started and when it did? That's wait time. That is waste. And that right there is your biggest opportunity to get faster. And the proof is in the pudding. The DataFlow team looked at their process and found a huge bottleneck. Stuff was just sitting there, waiting for a code review. So they focused on fixing that. And by tackling that one single problem, they cut their average cycle time down from over 5 days to just over 3. That's a 37% improvement. And get this, they didn't work more weekends, they didn't work harder, they just got smarter by cutting out the waiting. All right, we're at the final section, the last piece of this puzzle. You've got estimates, you've got predictability, you're focused on quality and flow. So how do you make sure this isn't just a one-time thing? How do you keep getting better? You need an engine for improvement. Because the best teams don't just collect data, they use it to fuel a cycle of getting better every single sprint. And the first step to fixing your problems is, well, seeing them. DataFlow started tracking every single thing that slowed them down. And pretty quickly, a clear picture emerged. Just look at this chart. Their biggest problems weren't some big, scary, mysterious thing. It was waiting for code reviews, fighting with deployment environments, and dealing with fuzzy requirements. Once they saw this data, it was like turning a light on in a dark room. They knew exactly where to point their efforts. And the machine that powers all this improvement is the retrospective. It's a beautifully simple loop. At the end of every single sprint, the team gets together to do 3 things. 1, reflect. What went well? What was a pain? 2, identify. What's the root cause of our single biggest problem? And 3, act. Let's create just one concrete action item we can try in the next sprint to fix it. Then you just repeat, That's it. It's that cycle of small, consistent improvements that adds up to massive change over time. So that's the story of DataFlow. They went from pure chaos to predictable clarity. How? By using data to shine a light on their process, find their bottlenecks, and fix them one by one. It's not magic, it's just a system. Which leaves us with one final big question. For you, forget everyone else for a second. What is the single biggest thing that's slowing your team down right now?